It's time for another Should You Summon. And this time around, it's real spicy when it comes to Goblin Slayer, ladies and gentlemen. Not only did these characters get buffed, they also got Dream Awakenings. So it's an exciting time if you already have these characters, or if you're planning on getting them. But it's also the time to answer the question, are they still worth it, or are they not? Starting with Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer is pretty much a ramping attacker to an extent, while also being able to benefit at lower HPs. He's able to buff up his damage and break power every time he uses a skill. His art's able to reduce break res and also increase the damage you're able to deal to the enemy. The true art buffs up his own damage and his own break power based on how low his HP is, and it also gives you a stackable art gauge buff. 3 arts per second, by the way, for 60 seconds, so you can get quite a lot of arts gen on this man. Mind you, there's multiple ways you can actually go about getting his HP lower, because of course in his kit he's not reducing his own HP by any means. The best way is by using an item like B3 Claw, since this gives you art gauge and attack, but it also sacrifices your own HP. Not to mention too, since this character is able to give himself so much damage and so much break power now, we have a lot of units in the game that's able to help him quite a bit. Chloe, for an example, being able to give him more break power and also reward him with 200 art gauge whenever he finally does break a boss. Or if you want to just buff up his damage even more, you could use a character like Yuzu for an example, or even a unit like Draken to give physical res down. There are tons of synergies and tons of characters to really make this guy shine, and to be honest, he could be quite a formidable breaker now if you have the right setups and everything else. Not to mention too, if you also factor in the Dream Awakenings, he can deal quite a lot of damage. So these buffs are insanely good for him. If I had to be honest with you, I'd probably say this probably bumps him up to at least A tier. He's going to be a really strong attacker, really strong breaker. As long as you're able to support him a little bit, hey, he's going to go off. The next unit we're going to talk about is going to be High Elf Archer. High Elf Archer is a little bit different from that of Goblin Slayer, being able to give you a lot of supporting capabilities in the kit. We have a skill that's reducing the enemy's attack. We have an art that's able to reduce physical res if you feint the enemy. And she has a true art that's able to buff up all allies' crit rate and evasion rate, which isn't too bad. Also, if you consider her dream evolutions, she has one that gives herself 200 art gauge and buffs up all allies' physical damage by 30%. That's insanely good, especially considering the fact too, she's a luck unit. All these characters are luck units. This doesn't make her broken by any means, and she's very basic on paper, right? But she's one of the only characters in the game that is a 120 luck, 100% crit buffer, which is, you know, pretty good on its own. And, you know, not only is she just good for that crit buff, she's also going to deal quite a bit of damage as well with that modifier, plus she also has Fatal Blow level 8, so hey, you can be expecting some DPS from High Elf Archer. And now moving on to the queen of the crossover, the absolute star of the show, Priestess. Priestess is the support character, so you already know how good that is, and her entire kit is all about support. Her skill is able to heal all allies, her art is able to buff up allies' art gauge by 30, and it has a chance of blinding the enemy, which is pretty situational but insanely good in some stages. And she has a true art that's able to give everyone on the team a barrier, also buffing up skill CT speed and HP recovery amount for herself, which pretty much means she's going to be able to spam her skill more often, and whenever she does use her skill, she's going to be able to heal more herself. Priestess is another character that's pretty basic on paper, but she's actually needed in some stages, like in the mines, for an example. There's a certain floor in the mines that she is just insane on, because there's a boss that you have to fight that you need a blind, and you also can't use any overtime arching effects on her. So Priestess is literally the best for that, because she has burst arching in the kit, and she also has the blinding. Not to mention too, since Priestess is a burst arching character, she works with every single archer in the game, so she's a great support unit to run with literally whoever you want to. Oh, and I don't know if I said it yet, but her slots, really good. Heal slot plus the 2 support slots, very spicy. But are they worth it, right? Are these 3 characters still worth the crystals, or should you just skip and save, or what should you be doing? And here's what I'll tell you, is that if you're someone who really lacks in support characters, I'm talking about you need someone else, I would say you summon on this banner, because if you luck out and get Priestess, you can use her for so long. She works with every single support character in the game, she works with every character in the game, and she's great at giving art gauge while also giving some decent heals, and she even has the barrier as well if you need it. And I would say this really goes for people who are brand new to the game as well. Like, if you don't have any support characters, try to pick up Priestess if you can. It will be so freaking good for your account. Now, if you already have Priestess, or you already have good support characters, should you still summon on this banner? Probably not. Goblin Slayer is really cool as a damage dealer, but to be honest, that's all he is just a damage dealer and a breaker, and we've had quite a few characters come out now that are pretty good at doing this already. If you were here for Hell's Paradise, you had Chobei, which is literally pretty much just Goblin Slayer, but a little bit different, and he's going to be able to deal more damage because he's just insane. You have other units that are kind of like this breaker role, also being able to support characters like Chloe for an example, and not to mention too, if you need damage dealers, more than likely, if you've been playing this game for a few months and you've been here for every Ascended crossover, you probably got 1 or 2 Ascended characters already that are insanely good DPS characters. And then as for High Elf Archer is also really good, especially as a luck crit buffer, but that's kind of where it ends. Like, if you don't really care about that, she's still going to deal damage, she's still going to be good as that crit buffer and also the DPS and all that, but I don't think it's worth spending all your crystals on, especially if you consider where we currently are in global. We are literally so close to characters like Sword Demon Berwick and Star God Lisa. Not only are we just so close to these characters, we're also very close to really big events happening in Grand Summoners Global. Like, for an example, Black Friday is going to be happening in a few weeks. Not only is Black Friday going to be happening, we have Christmas coming up next month, and we're going to be having New Year's as well, so you can be expecting some crazy stuff to be dropping for this, and you're going to want crystals for all of those events. So all in all, I would say for most people, it's pretty good time to skip and save for whatever else is coming on the horizon. Unless you are brand new or you're lacking support characters, then I would say you at least do a multi on this to try to get Priestess. If you get Priestess, congrats. Don't ever have to worry about this crossover again. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for this video, man. Tell me down below what you guys are going to be doing for this crossover, if you're going to be summoning on it or not. Me, myself, I'm actually lacking Priestess and I am lacking High Elf Archer, but I already have a lot of good support characters. I have tons and tons of characters I can use as replacement options for these units, so I'm not going to be summoning on it. I'm going to be saving because we have so much stuff happening soon. But hey, if you guys are going to summon or whatever you guys are going to be doing, hey, let me know all that type of stuff down below in the comment section. Oh, and one more thing before you leave. Don't forget to drink water.